Hello everybody and welcome back to the Mindfulness Corner. For those who are new here, my name is Haley. I am your passionate, fearless leader in the quest to mindfulness, and this is my second video for this channel. So today I thought it would be really important for us to go over and understand the basics of mindfulness and just get a really good foundation of understanding so that through our variety of practices we can really connect back to the center focus on mindfulness. So today we'll be going over everything from the history of it, to the different benefits of it, to just different schools of thoughts and definitions about it so that we can really understand it as a whole. So the first definition that we have of mindfulness is from the American Psychological Association. And their definition of mindfulness is that it is a moment-to-moment awareness of your experience without any judgment. So they define mindfulness as a state of being more so than a trait, which is actually really good for us because that means that you're not born with it, it's not genetic, you're not missing anything if you haven't been practicing it up until this point. It's something that we can do together, we can build on, we can incorporate and integrate into our lives through practicing it. So that is really great for us, and hopefully by going and visiting this channel and practicing often together, we'll be able to visit that state of being of mindfulness more often. So our second definition that we have is from Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is a mindfulness-based stress reduction expert. And I'll have a separate video that goes over that because that's a whole nother thing entirely that we'll want to pay attention to. And we'll also be talking about him a little later on in this video, but right now we're just going to go over his definition of mindfulness, which is that mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose, non-judgmentally. So it's seemingly pretty similar to the American Psychological Association definition, but this definition is more widely accepted in terms of practitioner and academic literature. So I thought that would be really important for you guys to know as well. And the third definition that I have for you guys is just one that I really connected with and really liked, and I thought it would really round out our whole definition learning on mindfulness. And this one is brought to you by Daniel J. Siegel, who is also another expert in mindfulness. And his is that mindfulness, in a most general sense, is waking up from life on automatic and being more sensitive to novelty in our everyday experiences. So instead of being automatic and mindless, mindfulness kind of awakens the brain, and that reconnection with the brain allows us to make choices, and choices can lead to change. So a little background history on mindfulness is that it was originated in the East through the cultures of Buddhism and Hinduism, and through secular and religious practices both in those religions. And those religions are similar in the way that they kind of originated in the same geographical location, and they both center their teachings around the concept of Dharma, which is essentially living life harmoniously with the natural order of the universe. So in Hinduism, they have an extremely long history, over a millennia, with mindfulness, seen in the Bhagavad Gita's discussions on yoga and in Vedic meditations. And in Buddhism, the point or the overall goal of Buddhism, as I understand it to be, is traveling the path to enlightenment, the Eightfold Noble Path to enlightenment. And the very first step to enlightenment and on that path is sati, which is mindfulness. So both of those religions have a very rich past with mindfulness, and it took a really long time to grow and develop in the Eastern world before coming over to the Western world. So Jon Kabat-Zinn, who we talked about earlier in this video, is who is credited with bringing the concept of mindfulness over from the Eastern world to the Western world. And he gets this accomplishment under his belt because he created the Center for Mindfulness at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, which was kind of the first of its type in the US. And he also created the Oasis Institute for Mindfulness based professional education and training. So that is actually where he developed the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, which essentially is an 8-week program that aims to reduce stress from people's lives by mindfulness meditations, different practices of mindfulness, loving kindness meditations. I'll actually go over it with you guys in deeper detail in a different video, because right now I'm working on a mindfulness-based stress reduction workbook that is supposed to take 8 weeks. So once I've become more comfortable and familiar with it and think I can talk about it a little better, I'll definitely share everything I learned with you guys, because the workbook that I'm doing is fully based on Jon Kabat-Zinn's MBSR strategy. And lastly, to round out our history on mindfulness, the last key players that you should know are Sharon Salzberg, Jack Kornfield, and Joseph Goldstein, who founded the Insight Meditation Society, which really helps spread the concept and idea of mindfulness throughout the United States too. The benefits of mindfulness with you guys now. Practicing this is so helpful because there are just so many benefits to it. It helps us to cope with anxiety and depression, and for anybody that's ever struggled with either of those, you know how amazing it is to feel any sense of relief from it. I personally have struggled with depression and with anxiety, and 1 in 4 people in the world have struggled with a mental illness at some point in their life. And that might sound aggressive to some people, but that is just because of the stigma that surrounds mental health and mental illness in our society. And I want us to feel really safe talking about that here, because there really shouldn't be any stigma about that. If you are suffering, talking about it and being open with it and accepting it, that is your reality, is the first step to finding help. And finding help in mindfulness is amazing. So we will definitely be touching on how that helps with depression and anxiety in further videos. It also helps you to develop healthy coping strategies. So, if you're having a hard day, rough time, if you're going through a grieving process, it really does help you to find healthier ways to cope with those emotions. And leading into that, it helps you to regulate and express your emotions. So because you become more aware of the patterns that you exhibit in terms of your emotions, it helps you to understand your emotions as well. So you understand why you're feeling what you're feeling and can therefore express it more effectively. Also, it helps us to communicate more effectively in our relationships. I just realized I spelled effectively wrong. Sorry guys, missing an I there. But it helps us to do that because it kind of trains your mind to slow things down. So you actually, if you're in an argument with someone, you kind of start getting heated and your mind's already thinking of responses. And this way, mindfulness, it really trains your mind to say, okay, I'm listening to what they have to say, I'm taking this in, I'm thinking about how I want to respond to this, instead of just letting your emotions completely drive the conversation. So it's really helpful to keep a level head when you're trying to effectively communicate your feelings and listen to other people's feelings as well. And then these ones I'll go through pretty quickly because again, I will go over them in more detail in other videos, but it increases memory function because it increases the amount of gray matter that you have in your brain. By meditating in mindfulness, it just gives you more ability to memorize things better. I will go into the science on that later. It leads us to more positive mindsets because it also, gives us an outlet for gratitude, and it does the same thing, providing an outlet for self-compassion and, for you to recognize what your self-talk is like and notice those patterns, and kind of gives you that option to say, oh, I realize I have some negative self patterns. Let me see how I can insert more compassion into them. It also helps you to become more resilient for all of the above reasons. It is really effective in emotional intelligence growth, and it is really a key to acceptance, which helps you to achieve a more peaceful being. And I will have a very, very detailed video on acceptance coming, so keep those all in mind. So that's it. That was our little crash course on mindfulness, our beginner's mindfulness 101. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I'm really excited for our next video. So until then, good vibes, deep breaths, and make it a great day. Thank you so much. See you next time.